Yo, what's poppin', it's Tommathan. I want to take a little bit of a closer look at the balance patch that the Overwatch League will be playing the playoffs on, and what this actually means for different teams, if this helps them, hurts them, what I think the meta is going to look like, what the reported meta looks like, things like that. So, looking at them, just going over the patch notes first, we have Sombra with her hack silence being reduced from 1.75 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Not a big deal. Seems like a pretty good change to me. Then you have her hack targets are no longer valid targets for hacking for the duration of the effect. Now, I don't know how that reads. Seems like it's talking about the single hack. So if you hack someone, you can't hack them again. So if you hack someone, can you still EMP them and will that reapply the effect? I feel like it will. So you can still get like hard pressure down a single person, like probably most likely the tank, right? But that's a good change for the most part, I think. That basically lets you immune to hack for 8 seconds, which is huge because you can't get re-silenced, and that just makes her a lot less annoying for single targets, right? And then her hack damage multiplier has been reduced from 40 to 25%, a 15% damage reduction. That's kind of big, but I think Sombra as a character doesn't specifically need the damage to still have a place in the meta. Yeah, she was still falling out of the meta in Countdown Cup, but she's very annoying in ranked, so this is probably something to do with that as well. I think that I think it'll be fine, and it's in situations where Sombra will be good in different metas. I think that she could come back with these changes, right? Let's say that we get a lot of diva gameplay in this meta, or we get a lot of diva gameplay in a future meta, and Sombra still has these changes, or something like that. Some sort of tank that Sombra can just hack and capitalize on. She'll be okay, and that's kind of where you want it. You don't want her to be super strong at everyone because she's just so annoying, right? So then, looking at two of the bigger changes between Genji and Zarya, and these are very important together because the Genji Zarya comp was the strongest one at the end of the Countdown Cup at the end of this patch life cycle. So the first one is Genji. His maximum ammo has been reduced from 30 to 24, and his shuriken damage has been reduced from 29 to 27. Not a big deal in and of itself. He'll still function exactly the same. It just means that his uptime is a bit less. And then it's similar with Zarya. Her bubble duration reduced from 2.5 to 2, which is really big. Genji engages onto the backline. That's an extra half second that Genji doesn't have now, that he can't just sit around. He will be forced to leave a lot quicker. And then her barrier cooldown has been reduced from 10 to 11 seconds. From increased to 10 to 11 seconds, sorry. Which sounds like, oh, it's just 1 second, but that's actually huge for this composition. Bubble rotations is what the entire comp is built around. You have to play where are their cooldowns, where are your cooldowns, all that stuff. And now that's basically an extra 2 seconds because you hit the bubble, the internal cooldown starts counting. You have 11 seconds until you get your next bubble. But if you hit another bubble, say 4 seconds later, because a fight breaks out or something like that, that is an extra. Well, that would have been 6 seconds until you get your next bubble, and then the 10 seconds go again. But now it's 7 seconds for an 11-second timer. So basically, it increases the bubbles by 2 seconds as you move on, just compound throughout the fight, an extra second, an extra second. So this will make it a lot more harder for the Zarya comps to be in a position to execute themselves, right? You can't bubble Genji in all this time. You're more vulnerable as Zarya for longer. And it just kind of will reduce the uptime and effectiveness of the composition as a whole, which is what these changes look like they are here to address. And combined, it could make this comp significantly worse. And then there are some diva changes where you have her fusion cannon spread increased from 3.5 to 3.75, which just means that she has more spread on her guns. And then her booster impact damage reduced from 25 to 15. Neither of those are a big deal. This will not affect Diva's viability. I think it will make her less annoying for just going onto a random DPS and just blowing them up, but shouldn't be a big problem at all. So what does this mean for what the Overwatch League is playing? Well, the rumors are saying you got Winston being a lot of Winston gameplay, a lot of Kiriko Lucio, and then a lot of different DPS between Sojourn, Reaper, Echo, Tracer, still some Genji, and that kind of look. But again, this is very early in development for these patches. So whatever we'll actually see on Sunday and beyond is not entirely known. It could be something like that. I think that there will definitely be some teams that bring out the Diva instead. Because let's say they end up going with a Reaper comp, and you're playing the Winston. Diva seems to be a logical fit in there. Diva also eats Kiriko Bell, eats Kiriko healing. So to me, it seems like she should be very effective in the dive. Now the idea with Winston is that you place down the bubble and it splits off Kiriko because she can't heal through it, she can't bell through it. So it does a great job at splitting it. Um, and I see that, but I think Diva could definitely have a nice place in the meta here. And then you say, well, if Diva has a place, does Zarya have a place as well? And I'm not sure, just because of those bubble and the barrier cooldowns and all that stuff with the changes. I feel like we'll see mostly Winston, some teams opting for the Diva, specifically teams that maybe don't want to play the Winston. And then we'll see a bit of a mixed meta. Especially if you get Echo, Diva's also better in the Echo. Diva just seems like should be a good pick here, I think. This could just be the Diva player in me speaking. But to me, it looks like we should get some good dive compositions in this playoffs. And now I just want to talk a little bit about each of the teams and who I think this patch benefits and who I think this patch hurts. So starting off with the teams that don't care, the neutral teams. I think Toronto Defiant don't really care. Now, this probably would be bringing in Muse, or you just run Hoppa Diva, whichever one they go with. Not a big difference there. Muse did look good earlier in the season in the kickoff clash and a little bit in the midseason madness, but for the most part, Hoppa has looked better and he's been their guy. And then in terms of the flex DPS position, because Hisu's going to be on Sojourn more likely than not. Maybe he brings a Sombra out. I hope they don't. They kind of need him on the Sojourn. I think that Finale is much more effective on the Tracer. They were playing a lot of Tracer as much as they could in the Countdown Cup. So I think it definitely helps them that if Genji is shifted away from Toronto, just run Finale on the Tracer, probably just the Tracer Sojourn comp. And then if you want to run Muse, if you want to run Hoppa, whichever, should be fine. And then another team I think is neutral, actually the Dallas Fuel. So here's the thing with Dallas. They have Hanbin or Fearless. They just pick, do you want to run Hanbin or Fearless? Probably Fearless, I'm thinking. Seems like a very hive mind oriented run it onto them. So I kind of think that will come out. Hopefully you don't put Fielder on Moira. I'm sure Fielder has a nasty Kiriko on him. No problems there. But this does hurt them in some aspects because Sparkle is definitely a Genji player first and foremost. His other characters aren't bad by any means. He's still very good at Tracer. But Genji is definitely his best character. Maybe I should put them in slight negative. Actually, I just kind of talked myself to putting them down here. Because you do lose that. You lose that extra dynamic effort that you get from playing Sparkle on Genji. Interesting. I think I will call it a slight negative. Okay, I've changed my mind right now. Sure. Slight negative for Dallas because you don't get Sparkle on that Genji, which is he's so good at. He's so good at the Genji. He's like pushing top 5. I don't know if he is top 5 in the league, but he's definitely pushing it. You have to consider him. So yeah, I also think you'd rather have a meta where you can play Hanbin than Fearless. So maybe that's another negative for Dallas. So do I want to go positives or negatives? I'll probably go. I'll be a little bit of a negative Nancy. I'll talk about the teams that I think this hurts the most first. So more slight negative teams. Atlanta Reign. If it is Winston, if it is predominantly Winston, Hawk is not playing that very well. I'm sorry, and you're not bringing in Gator. It's just not happening. So that links me. They're probably going to be limited to a Diva comp. We'll see how good that is moving forward. I think that hurts them quite a bit. Also, well, that's basically it. Because I think Speedily would definitely enjoy Echo being very good. Now, Echo can't be played everywhere, even if she is good. So, nah. But I think Speedily on Echo is really good. You have Venom on the Tracer full time. You can maybe run a Tracer Echo. You can bring in Kai if you want. Atlanta's very well rounded outside of Hawk playing main tanks, I would think. And I highly doubt you bring Gator for the first real time this season into the playoffs. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think this makes sense. And then another team is going to be the San Francisco Shock. Now, this does help them because they did struggle a lot in the Countdown Cup, but that was mostly because they played a lot of Sombra to start, and they weren't very good at Sombra. They weren't very good at playing into Sombra. I did make a video on that. You should check that out. I'll put a little card up there. But here's the thing. Similar to Atlanta, Kaluge on Winston or Mikey on Winston. If you are playing Mikey as the shock, you're not winning this tournament. I'm sorry. Mikey will not get you a tournament win. A playoff win. It's not a tournament anymore. The playoffs. Mikey's not getting you that. Just put, even if you are playing Monkey, I beg you to play Kaluge. I beg it. Just do not play Mikey. Do not be tempted to play Mikey. It's so bad. He's not good. In terms of DPS, there shouldn't really be any problems. You want to put Striker on the Tracer anyway. Then you can put Proper on whatever he wants to play. You put him on the Sojourn. You can put him on the Echo, on whatever. Probably don't put him on Reaper. I would like him on something a bit more pop-off than that. Yeah, I again, this is mostly coming from you don't have an elite Winston player. So even if D.Va is just as good as Winston, not having that flexibility will hurt you in the long run. So I'm looking like this. Probably a bit better off for Shock than Atlanta. Atlanta's maybe a bit worse. And then the tragic team, it's just the Houston Outlaws. Here's the thing with Houston, right? You don't have an option to play Winston basically at all. Unless Dante has a sick Winston on him, he could. But he's not going to be able to catch up to the likes of Fearless, to the likes of, I don't know, someone, Reiner, Gushue, any of those guys, Bellasria, Smurf, Fate. The list of elite Winstons on this in this playoffs is extremely high, right? Extremely long. And then even if Dante has an all right Winston, he's not going to be able to match up to them. And then you're not bringing in Doge. If you're bringing in Doge, you're losing as well. It's similar to Mikey. You're not bringing in Doge, especially not in the playoffs. You didn't even trust him to finish a full series against, like, New York. Like, no. So, why else is Houston bad? Well, Pelicans Tracer has not been the best this season. It's not been a strong suit. You definitely want him on the Genji. Now, if Echo's good, that's good for him, but still, you can't play Echo everywhere. So he's going to end up on the Tracer, or maybe he's going to just say, fuck it, I'm going to keep playing the Genji. And that hurts Houston. That's it for me. You have a bad matchup in your flex CPS with Pelican, potentially. You have a bad matchup with your tank and Dante. And I see they might be running a lot of D.Va Echo or something like that. And D.Va might not even be good. This is like, no one said, oh, D.Va's been played. No one said that. I'm just thinking, right? This is just me personally, my thoughts. You should let me know down below if D.Va is any good, if you think she'll be any good in this patch, or if you think, no, it'll just be all Winston all day. Or if even the rumors are wrong. While you're down there, you should also like and subscribe, because I do try to upload a lot, and I will have a really cool video coming out soon, which will be hyped to watch. So, also Defiant Roundtable soon. Probably tomorrow, actually, for that one. Anyway, Houston's not looking great. This is not looking like a great meta for them, and it's really unfortunate because I think they kind of were looking good most of this season, but this is going to be rough for them. And now we're going to talk about the teams where there's some slight positives, some big positives, and one team that I think this meta benefits more than the rest. So, starting off with the slight positive teams, I think it is the Florida Mayhem and the Hangzhou Spark. So this is why. Florida, for someone, Winston's definitely his best tank. They weren't hurting with him on Zarya or anything like that. He was still very good at the Zarya. So it's not like that it was hurting him, but Winston is definitely his best character. I think that's not a bold statement. It's kind of obvious. And in terms of checkmate, he doesn't care if he's on Tracer or Genji or anything. I feel like most of his flex DPS are at a pretty similar level, so I don't think that hurts him at all. So I give them a slight positive on that aspect. And for the Hangzhou Spark, I think this is a slight positive because you don't really want to play Genji because Alpha Yi just hasn't been him for the back half of the season. You don't want to have to go back to him. So you like that you can probably play Pineapple on the Tracer. You like that you can bring in Gushue. That's how you got into the playoffs, is you played Gushue on the Winston against the Charge and the Chengdu. Now, I don't think if they care too much between Bernard or Gushue. I don't think it matters. If D.Va does end up being good, like I think she might, they could lean Bernard. I think you'd prefer Bernard a little bit, but Gushue's, he created Primal Blade. Like he's him on Winston sometimes. Sometimes he's not, but he's been getting better as the season's gone on. So I'm confident in saying Gushue is him right now. So I think this is a slight positive for them. Nothing crazy, but should be decent. Also for the Spark, they have 4 supports. Surely one of them has a nasty Kiriko. I hope it's not Neko. I think Teru could have a nice Neko. I think you see Teru Super Rich come in, hopefully. And it seems like it could be good for them. But that doesn't matter. So those are my two slight positives. And now we have a lot of teams left for big positive and then massive benefit. So the first team I want to talk about with a positive is probably going to be the Seoul Dynasty. It's kind of similar to someone, except I think Smurf is better at the Winston and maybe a bit worse at the Zarya. So I think it helps him a bit more than someone. And then for in terms of DPS, it doesn't matter. Prophet can play whatever. He probably prefers to be on Tracer a little bit. I would expect. So I guess that also helps him. But it's the Seoul Dynasty. They're pretty much meta proof. And Smurf on the Winston takes him from being a good all around tank, the glue of the team, to another player that can make a dynamic pop off plays, right? He can go the extra mile on Winston compared to being, a pretty good Zarya. He can go elite, potentially the best, right? So I think Seoul does benefit in that aspect. Another team I think benefits is the Philadelphia Fusion. So Philadelphia Fusion, you want Belosria in instead of Fury, 100%. Fury, not great on the Junker Queen. He did have an all right Countdown Cup, but Philly in the midseason madness, in the kickoff clash, have looked their best, and that was when they were predominantly playing Belosria on the Winston or the Wrecking Ball. So I like Philly more with Belosria. I think it adds an extra dimension for them besides just DPS pop off. You get DPS plus tank pop off. So that's big. In terms of Zest, I don't think he cares between Tracer and Genji. I think they're both good. Maybe his Genji's a little better, but I don't think it matters too much. And then we have the LA Gladiators. You want Reiner on Winston. That's just true. His off tanks weren't great last stage. He wasn't supposed to play them. It was supposed to be Space, but he was sick, right? But, just play Reiner on Winston. It's his best character. It's going to be good. And then for DPS line, I guess you could say being forced on Sojourn could hurt them, but you could say that about a lot of these teams. Like Hydron X is going to play Sojourn. Hydron, I guess, can play the Tracer, so maybe not. But there are some teams that you can say that with. Like no, well, not really. I think Happy Tracer is like all right, but it's not next level. So I don't know. You could say that could be a weakness. I don't really think it is. Kevster can do whatever he wants. He's Kevster, right? He can play Torbjorn and make it work in this meta. Doesn't matter. But Reiner on Winston is a huge positive for them. And then finally, not finally, but I guess the London Spitfire is my last in this group. Hottie on Winston, they were doing it last stage. They're going to keep on doing it. That's exactly what they wanted. Maybe you can break out the rush. I don't know how this would affect the rush. I feel like Kiriko would be really annoying to try and run onto. I don't think it'll be that good. I could be wrong. But I don't think it'll be that strong. But regardless, Hottie on the Winston's big. Shax on the Tracer compared to Backbone on the Genji in the last match. That wasn't really what was going on anyway. But I think it's pretty mid, regardless if you're playing Shax Tracer or Backbone Genji or whatever you're doing there. So, who cares? Just keep playing Sparker. Just put Hottie on the Monkey. I'm sure one of your flexed supports can play Kiriko. London should be okay. And then my team that I think benefits the most from this change is the Shanghai Dragons. Now, hear me out. Starting in the tank slot, Void was pretty good on the Junker Queen. Before that, not so good. This stage, all right. They did play a little bit of Fate anyway, though. And I think Fate is a better tank for this team overall. Barring that one Junker Queen meta where Void was just the best. Void wasn't an elite playmaker in that squad either. It was largely spearheaded by the DPS line. Izayaki being crazy on the brig. Li Shagan. Void was the weakest part of the Summer Showdown Shanghai Dragons. Fate has the leadership. He's great at Winston. This is perfect for Shanghai. Now, Fleta on the Tracer has not been great. It hasn't. It's been maybe the worst in the league, the worst starting Tracer. Yes. But, but, he can play Echo, hopefully elite. He's had a Reaper earlier this stage, or he's earlier this season in the kickoff clash. He was their Reaper specialist. And if worst comes to worst, you still have Who Are You who can come in, maybe play some Genji. Who knows? It depends on how much do you rate Fleta still. Can he break out the Echo? Can he break out the Reaper? what's going on with him. I think this helps them more than anything else could have, unless besides hard Genji, they weren't really running it though. They weren't running it. Something about them last stage didn't want to run Who Are You? They wanted to run Tracer. They wanted to run Flood. So I think for Shanghai, putting Fleta on Echoes in their best interest, putting Fleta on Reapers in their best interest, let it run, see what happens. I don't know. I think it's a much better look for this team. Even though I said Tracer strong and Fleta Tracer isn't good, I think it's been good. Not that Fleta Tracer's been good. I think that this meta will be good for Shanghai Dragons. It feels like it should be good. But yeah. So that's my thoughts on who benefits from the meta and who doesn't. Like this video, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on any of these teams, on the meta in general. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a good one. Deuces.